What you figure that most of the restaurants in our system open at 10:30 in the morning. Not all of them, but most of them. And you really don't need to have five people on your schedule at 10:30 because scales, I mean, not everybody eats lunch at 10:30 in the morning. So your lunch is going to scale between 10:30 and 1 p.m. And you have to stage when people come in. And so it's very important for you to take a look at that and just not say, okay, for lunch, I need five people for lunch, but you don't need five people between 10:30 and 1. You need maybe one person between 10:30 and 11, two people between 11 and 11:30, and then you may have your next person come in at 11:45. And so you're really scaling up to have that five full people at lunch. And if you don't do that and you don't schedule it that way, you're just going to spend excess labor and you're never going to maximize the return you have. So the way to do that is to control it in those 15-minute increments. And then on the other side, your lunch is going to slowly die off between the 1 and 2 period, where you may need only four people at 1:30, and then you may need three people at 2. And then typically between 2 and 5, that midday rush, you may only need two or three people, but you have to control those in those 15-minute increments to maximize your return.
Awesome. Gotcha. So I'm assuming that you guys identified trends and then you forecasted these numbers based off of individual stores, or is it more of like a blanketed, most locations follow these metrics in which, 11 o'clock, like you said, that's when people really start having lunch and then you kind of bring it up, or is it case by case?
It's really case by case, store by store, but you can look at the trends. You need to look at the trends on day parts. The way we define day parts are lunch, midday, dinner, and late night. And so you can't look at it on a macro scale of your market per se or your company. You have to look at it on an individual store level basis. And so you're looking at the trends of how do we perform each day, right? Each day of the week, because Monday performs differently than Friday does. Friday and Saturday are typically two of the busiest days of the week, and Mondays can be slower. So, in order to forecast, I mean, really what you're doing is what we do is we tend to look at the trends over the last 3 to 4 weeks. And the last 3 to 4 weeks of trends are pretty good predictors of what the next week is going to look like. And so typically that's the way a manager is going to perform their scheduling. You're going to put your schedule out a week in advance and you're going to look at those trends for the previous 3 or 4 weeks to determine that schedule. It's, the other thing I think it's important is, I mean, you can't treat the employees as a commodity, right? I mean, you're talking about HR and you have to understand the employee and their needs. I mean, the high school athlete is different than the mom who needs to work 40 hours or who may need to get time off for babysitters. And so it's not just putting numbers on a schedule, it's also importantly understanding the needs of your crew and what expectations they have, both financially, time off, etc. It's a matrix and not just so simple.